Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. And thank you for your patience. My name is Alondra, and I'm from Hostfully. I'm joined here today by Marco from DPGO and Frank, my colleague from Hostfully.
Hello.
Hi. We're actually joining you from a couple of different places. I'm live from Madrid. Frank, you're live from
Good old Charlotte, North Carolina.
And Marco?
And I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, we've got lots of people joining us today from a variety of places. So before we begin, I just wanted to give you a brief intro into who's joining us today. Marco from DPGO. And dynamic pricing is a topic that is becoming quite popular and quite, something that's got a lot of interest in the vacation rental space. So we're quite excited to have you here today, Marco. I know you're going to discuss some of the vacation industry trends, including the changes in length of stay, booking windows, and daily revenues, as well as a quick overview of how DPGO works and how dynamic pricing might just be the tool for some of our guests today to help them simplify the pricing process and help to optimize your revenue. As mentioned, I'm also joined today by Frank, who will help keep an eye on incoming questions. So if you see over on the right-hand side, there's a chat box area on the right-hand side of your screen where you can ask questions. There's also a poll tab that we would really appreciate if you fill out, because this is incredibly helpful for us to guide the conversation in terms of what webinars we should host next and what kind of topics are of interest to our attendees. So without further delay, I'll go ahead and pass this on to Frank, who will give you a quick overview into Hostfully and how we fit into the bigger picture.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Alondra. Excited to have this conversation with you. So first of all, again, welcome, Marco. Thank you for joining us on the webinar. And to those of you who joined in on today's call, we're super excited to have you with us. So just quickly about Hostfully, just before we start, just wanted to let you know a little bit more about Hostfully. For those who are not familiar, we're a vacation rental property management software company that helps you run your business from tip to tail. We essentially strive to help vacation rental companies and property managers make and increase revenue, streamline and automate their day-to-day operations, and just improve the overall traveler experience. Now, just a quick recap, Hostfully has two platforms. These are both completely standalone platforms, the property management platform and the digital guidebook. They're both fully integrated, so you're of course more than welcome to use both of them together. But you also have the option to use just the property management software or just the digital guidebook. Quickly on the property management software side, we have direct integrations with major OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and a bunch of other channels as well. And really, we work as a channel manager for those OTAs. So Hostfully will be your central software and your hub in managing all those reservations. We have a great pipeline feature, which is unique to the industry. And it's here where you can see all your guests and exactly where they are in the process of their booking. And you basically manage your operations in different ways than the other softwares. We have a really nice out-of-the-box direct booking website available to all of our users. And especially in this day and age, we want to make as many direct bookings as possible and, not to be reliant on so many others. Also included in our software are automated messages, both email and text messages. We have reports, analytics, payment processors, and a whole lot more to help run your vacation rental business. And then we also have a standalone digital guidebook platform, a whole separate entity. Just as important, this is really unique and a beautiful platform. It's where we focus on enhancing the guest experience. And again, we make it easy to share important information to your guest about their trip. Check-in details, directions, house manual, check-in information, as well as departure information and all your favorite recommendations, restaurant, bars, attractions. You can also create and customize your own categories as well. And again, this aims in boosting the guest experience. It cuts down on communications, and it also has the ability to get you more 5-star reviews. So you also have a great upselling feature to increase your overall income. And then, so quickly, property management platform, we're also winning awards. So we're super excited about this. It's been absolutely great. We won Matt Landau's VRMB Keystone Award. The first year they had it in 2019 for the best vacation rental software. And then they just released their Keystone winners for 2021, and we won again, making us back-to-back winners. One of the main evaluators, Terry White, said that Hostfully is one of the best softwares, period, I have ever seen. Next is, again, Guidebook. Same thing on the Guidebook side. We're really booming. Erica is a client of ours and basically said the same, pretty much have the same view and opinion as many of our other clients. She stated that the Guidebook totally blew her away. We saved her a ton of time, and also that the Guidebook is more professional than a Word document or a PDF that you would leave in the unit. So if you haven't tested out our Guidebooks yet, we have free trials on our website for all subscriptions, and also we have free trials for all of our subscriptions. And then we also have one free Guidebook for everyone who wants to test it out. And then just fun reports and webinars. Not only do we have an incredible platform and a beautiful guidebook, but we also have great reports and webinars. We have a variety of reports available on our website, which I encourage you all to check out at your leisure. It's hostfully.com/2020 report, and has a good selection of reports: future booking report, multi-channel distribution reports, and other reports that have great insight, can be useful for your business. So again, I just encourage you guys to check those out directly from our website, and we have a ton to offer you there as well, along with blog posts and articles and all that fun stuff. If you do want any additional information on our products, please feel free to reach out to either Alondra or myself. We're always happy to coordinate and schedule a one-on-one demo with you. So again, I think that's enough about Hostfully. Y'all are here to hear Marco Bonanni talk about the wonderful DPGO and pricing. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Marco with DPGO. So y'all feel free to take it away from here. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Frank and Alondra. Hi, I'm Marco, and welcome to the Hostfully and DPGO Travel Trends webinar. DPGO is a data-driven dynamic pricing and revenue management tool for short-term rental hosts. We collect huge amounts of data, and our expertly designed pricing tool then uses that data to isolate the perfect price for your listing in that given market environment. So before I jump into the presentation, I'd like to briefly explain why you should be using dynamic pricing. So before we get started, there's a poll on the side during this webinar and asking you if you're currently using any dynamic pricing. So it'd be really helpful to know how many of you have or have used dynamic pricing in the past. So please look for that and provide us some feedback there. That'd be really helpful. So I hope after this presentation, you'll have a better understanding on the value of the data that our platform compiles daily. Sorry about that. And how you can benefit from dynamic pricing for your short-term rentals. So to assemble this information manually is virtually impossible, and without it, you are at a great disadvantage in maximizing your short-term rental ROI. So we want to help you leverage that data to help improve your occupancy and ROI for your rental property. So if you haven't used dynamic pricing for setting nightly rates before, you will definitely sympathize with the time you invest in researching what the ideal rate should be for each night. And to help you visualize this, so imagine when a traveler is searching for their travel accommodations. They will visit the online travel agency site like Airbnb. They'll search for, based on the criteria they require, such as date range, number of guests, etc. And in most cases, they will sort their search results by price, so usually lowest to highest. So it is very imperative that you are listed correctly near the top of this list to be considered for a booking. This is where the challenge starts, because the inventory of available listings changes daily, and the pricing fluctuates according to many factors in any given area. So short-term rental pricing is no longer a business of what you want to earn per night, but what the market demand dictates. And so airlines and hotels have been pricing like this for a very long time. And the intent is to have a maximum occupancy rate, especially if you're looking for a certain ROI for your short-term rental property. And so to be priced properly at any given night, you need to be priced competitively based on apples to apples comparison of other hosts closest to your property. And so our goal is to help you set your nightly rates intelligently using over 200 parameters and billions of data points. This is impossible to achieve manually. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to post in the questions panel. We'll review them at the end of the presentation and provide some answers. Also, we'll be offering an exclusive offer for this session at the end, so please stick around to the end for this special discount. So the outline of the presentation today will include data and occupancy rates, booking pace, revenue, new customers, and more to help illustrate the US travel market is well on its way to recovery after a pretty tough 18 months. So with that, I will go through some charts and graphs to help illustrate and explain what insight data can help you to make decisions that maximize the return on your rental property. So the average nightly rates growth. Let's jump straight into the numbers and start with the average nightly rates that we're seeing across the United States. So as a general average, nightly rates in the US are 35% higher than the rates seen in 2020, and even more impressive, 51% higher than the rates we saw in 2019. This rate increase is doing a lot to offset the lost earnings of last year and is injecting some welcome relief for vacation rental hosts in the United States. The pandemic took a substantial toll on the industry, but with these average nightly rate increases, it's easy to see why the market is on the road to recovery. So coming holiday season volume growth, a big concern for hosts every year is the holiday season. While it isn't in the summer season, it's still one of the busiest periods for vacation rental hosts in the United States. For the festive period in 2021, we're predicting another increase in booking volume from 2020 to this year. The festive period last year was a little grim, and because of the latest vaccination figures, we're confident that hosts will see a substantial increase in booking volume this year. We're predicting an 85% increase in booking volume for Thanksgiving compared to 2020, and a 31% increase when compared to the figures from 2019. For Christmas, we're predicting a 60% increase in 2020 and an 85% increase on 2019. So the vacation rental landscape is totally different to how it was at the end of 2020. And this is one of the main reasons that we are predicting a huge recovery over the festive season. So the average daily rate, I always love how symmetrical these graphs can be. In this graph, we've collected the average daily rate from all local markets in the United States and come up with an average figure for every day in the past 2 years, as well as a prediction for the last 3 months of this year. As you can see, the daily rates seen in 2020 are a substantial amount lower than they have been during 2021 so far. The greatest gap between rates occurred in April of 2021, and the closest margin we've seen so far, discounting the starting point, of course, is that of mid-June 2021. This is hardly surprising as June, July, and August are peak seasons for this market. So the price increases noticeably during this period. So the average length of stay, this graph is an interesting one. In order to shed more light on the short-term rental industry, we wanted to take a look at the average duration of stays in America in 2021 compared to 2020. One of the biggest forecasted trends for travel in 2021 was named the rise of the digital nomads, which saw individuals that are able to work from home supposedly going on longer breaks in order to get away from normality. So as you can see in the graph on the screen now, this trend hasn't really manifested in reality. So the average booking window, there was another forecasted trend for 2021, and it was that guests would wait until the last minute to book holidays due to the ever-changing nature of travel restrictions and local lockdowns. So interestingly, we've seen a reasonable balance in the length of the booking window between 2020 and 2021. This year started out with a much shorter booking window than the same time in 2020. But by April, the dynamic started to shift. This graph mostly just tells us that guests aren't necessarily looking on the last minute, as we saw become slightly more popular last year. So average daily revenue, this next slide focuses on the average daily revenue for every short-term rental host from January 2019 to November 2021. As we've seen in other graphs, the market performance took a huge dip when the pandemic disrupted normality and has dipped and recovered at the brink and decline of every wave of infection that the US has seen. So for new bookings, this graph shows the number of new bookings per month in 2020 and 2021 compared to that same month in 2019. As you can see, March and April 2021 was 50 times lower than the same period in 2019. This is when the COVID pandemic really started to bite and hosts were seeing a wave of cancellations and absolutely no new bookings. Since April 2020, the majority of the new booking rates have been below the level set by the same period in 2019. However, February to June 2021 is the first time this year that the new booking rate overtook the level set in 2019. So we're predicting a leveling out in October and a slow rise into November and December of 2021.
Awesome, Marco, real quick, and I don't know, we're getting a lot of questions, which is exciting.
Okay.
So thank everyone who's joining. Do you
Sure.
want maybe to touch on some of these questions? Or I know you have a few slides left. Maybe you want to finish and then we can ask them towards the end. What do you,
yeah, sure. I think I've got like 2 slides and then maybe we could just jump into the questions.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Just in case we get any answered by this next slide here.
You got it.
The final chart in this presentation shows the number of cancellations per month between January 2020 and December 2021. So as you can see, the cancellations sharply increased in February of 2020 and peaked in March 2020. It then declined again between March and May 2020, which eventually led to it settling down again. There was another smaller rise in November 2020 when we started to see another surge in COVID infections. Since then, the number of cancellations have leveled out again, and we're seeing roughly the same figures that we saw in 2019. Occupancy, so as I mentioned, occupancy rates differ hugely from market to market. So it's hard for us to give you an overall average because it won't give you a fair view of the general US market. So instead, I'd like to direct you to our Markets by DPGO. This is our free market insight tool. All you need to do is enter the name of or postal code of the area you want to research, click enter, and you'll be shown a selection of data insights specific to that market. These insights include market supply, occupancy rate, average daily rate, and day of the week price factor, and more. So as I mentioned, we are offering an exclusive discount for this webinar. We are offering all attendees of this webinar a $50 credit that can be used after your free initial 30-day trial period. So to redeem your promotional credit, visit our website at dpgo.com, register for a free 30-day trial, and then open a live chat session and mention the Hostfully $50 credit webinar offer. One of our client support specialists will add that $50 credit to your account. After the 30-day trial, it will be applied to any billing. Okay, so thank you for attending. I'll now open up the Q&A session. So I'll just flip over to the questions and see if I can help answer some of the questions. Okay. Okay, so should I start at the top here?
Yeah, where to begin, right? It's up to you, Marco.
Okay, sure. I'll just, I don't know if I can, if these are in order of the most recent. Yeah, maybe I should start at the bottom then, since they're the oldest.
Yeah, let's do that. I think, yeah.
Okay, sure. So happy to hear that you're quick. Okay, so that one's directed to you guys from Carolyn. How do you get the customers to look at the guidebook? Okay, so the next one is Carolyn again. Will your software take into account the details of the property versus just data around the area? For example, our property is much nicer than surrounding homes. So I get this question a lot because it's very difficult to, it's one thing if your property perhaps is the same size or same number of rooms and you offer all of the similar amenities, but a lot of times it's difficult to put a value on like the view. You know, sometimes you have an ocean view, and maybe sometimes you just have a view of a dumpster. So maybe you're able to actually change the value of your property based on that, or some factors like that. And so our platform allows you to actually set your base pricing. And so you can be conservative, standard, or aggressive. And so based on some of those factors, and usually the pictures might dictate some of, like, to illustrate some of that value. And so, so the software can't tell people that it's a much nicer view. And that's where you have to take into consideration the base pricing that you're allowed, that you can use that feature to set that for. Hope that helps clarify that a bit. So the next question, I don't know if you want me to type in answers in here, or I can if you'd like, but it might take a little bit too long. The next question by Roger is DPGO considering the type of accommodation when analyzing competitors and price type equals kind of number of stars in a hotel. We use a lot of different data points to compare. So we'll look at many parameters when we're and our objective with our system is to actually get an apples to apples comparison as close as possible to your competitors. That way, when you show up in search results, your pricing is really close to all your competitors, and that gives you kind of a higher chance of being considered for a booking. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, they also
in terms
said
of the type of accommodation, sometimes it depends on how the property is listed. So if it shows, it's 3 bedrooms, or if it's a full house, or a lot of times those details appear in the content or the title of your description. So you have to kind of keep in consideration of that. So one of the things that I can recommend on that side of it is in our dashboard, we actually have a competitors tab that you can look at, and it will show you the competitors that you're being compared against. And so then you can go into there and kind of like peeking over the fence, you can see what they're using for a description, what they're using for a title, and maybe the pictures they're using and some of the other things that they're offering in their listing. And that kind of gives you an idea perhaps as well of maybe how you can optimize your listing. Maybe you see somebody describing their property a little bit different or better. So you can kind of lean on that data and it'll save you a lot of time, because instead of going through the listings yourself on the OTA sites and trying to find those competitors, we give you the list of the competitors right off the hop. So that gives you a chance to quickly look at, see what other people are doing. So next question. Okay, Carolyn. That's the next one for you guys. Stanley Hudson. When you say market breakdown, so one of the things that I did mention is that every market is different. So Stanley, you're asking about the market breakdown. You can use our markets our markets research tool and look at your specific area, and you can actually zoom in on the map and look at the different data based on like an area around your listings, which I think will be very helpful, because markets are different in every location, and so it's very difficult to give you a specific answer on those 2 years. And if you're actually looking for some very specific reporting around your area, definitely hit us up on our live chat. We can take your request and actually create custom reporting on specific data that you might be looking for. So we do that once in a while.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And we also do, and maybe also follow us online and check our blog, because we're always putting out regular blog posts and content that are very specific to timelines in terms of data for a specific time period, very key information. And some of these questions that you guys are posting here are really great today, and I think that they might lead up to potential posts. So if you're making some requests like this, we might actually come out with an article soon about it. Charles, any data on France? Unfortunately, we are on the roadmap to expanding outside of North America, but our data currently only covers Canada and the US. But check us back later this year or possibly early 2022, as we do plan on expanding our data set beyond North America.
I did just go to dpgo.com/markets, and it's
Okay.
pretty impressive reporting. So I definitely recommend everyone take a quick look at that.
Yeah, for sure. So it gives you kind of a general view of that market or that area you're looking at. And if you want a real gray comparison, the best way to do it is just to register for the free trial, because our system will import all of your listings. And within maybe 6 to 12 hours, we'll have a chance for our engine to run through all of the data for your listings. And it actually will get even more granular, because we'll be able to compare your exact listings with all of your competitors and give you even more granular data.
I think we've got another question that asks if we can break down the average nightly rental by bedroom. It's 2 blended.
Okay. By bedroom, this is a kind of a challenging one, but there are a lot of listings that are just a bed. I think if the question, if I understand it correctly, you're asking, is it by the number of bedrooms, or if it's just one bedroom that's being listed? And so that I'm not 100% sure on what you're asking, but for by bedroom, again, it's one of those things where you'll want to plug in your listings into our engine and let the comparison run, and then you'll get much more granular data based on your exact listings. And if you're listing just one bedroom, this one's been really challenging, because a lot of times the OTA site doesn't indicate very specifically, and it kind of, the data does blend a little bit, because our engine may not pick up exactly that it's just a 1 bedroom that's for rent. It might assume it's a 1 bedroom enclosed unit, and that can kind of skew the pricing or recommendation a little bit on the nightly rate.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Is there a demo of the platform? Again, the best thing to do is to jump on the 30-day trial. There's no obligation. And again, we're offering a $50 credit today from the webinar attendees. And just try it. Import your listings. When you import your listings, the dynamic pricing will turn on automatically, but you also have the option to turn it off. So if you want to use it just to compare what our system suggests for nightly rates versus what you're already doing, definitely on our calendar view, you can plan for months and weeks in advance and look at what the nightly suggested rate will be for your property. So that's probably the best way to demo the platform. So Michael, how would you differentiate yourself from other solutions like AirDNA, Price Labs, and Beyond Pricing? So our objective here is really to, obviously, we want to offer all of the features that everybody else has and more, and we try to, offer something more unique and better. So where some of our competitors might not have some features, we try to actually have all of them. And we pride ourselves in the quality of our data, and that we, our engine runs every day and produces some interesting information that we can leverage and that you can leverage to help you maximize your ROI.
Yeah, so one person asked if we will share the data that you reviewed today, but yeah, we'll be sending out a recorded version of this webinar to each of you. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that was for me. I could see where it went.
Yeah, no, it's good. We get a lot of questions. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is awesome. What are the key features that brings in more money per stay, beds or bedrooms, location, pool, things within this? Wow.
Such a good question, right?
It is. It's a really great question. Everybody's always looking to get the most ROI. So there's a lot of factors that will affect the per night stay. Seasonality is a big factor. Demand is a huge factor. I think at the end of the day, what you're looking for is to maximize your occupancy at any given time. And my example always goes back to using dynamic prices versus not using it. And so if you are just looking to get a certain nightly rate for your listing, you're probably going to have a lot of vacancies because you're not taking into consideration all of the factors that affect your bookings. So, like I said, when people are looking for a listing, they're going to put in their criteria if they want a pool, if they're looking for a certain number of bedrooms. And the key there is once they filter that list, you want to try to position yourself near the top because a lot of times people will, they'll sort by price. They're looking for the best value, best deal, and they're going to consider maybe the first so many listings. And so there's going to be a lot of factors in there that are going to predict whether you're going to even show up on that. And so inventory changes daily, demand changes daily. And so your nightly rate has to reflect those factors. And so in order to be considered for a booking. So dynamic pricing is really becoming the gold standard for setting your nightly rate in order to be considered. And I know I've done this many times when I'm booking trips, if I'm on Expedia or if I'm on another travel site, and I put in those criteria I'm looking for: date range, whatever the parameters, and then I'm going to sort, and I always sort by price for some weird reason. Just seems kind of like human nature to want to look at everything that's kind of in that criteria, and I want to see what's the cheapest and what's the most expensive, and then I'm going to put myself somewhere where I'm comfortable on my budget. And so most times it's going to be near the top, and that's natural. So if you're not using dynamic pricing and you're just setting your nightly rate, you might end up on the bottom of the list one day and at the very top the next day, and you're not maximizing your occupancy. You're not going to maximize your nightly rates or your total revenue. So dynamic pricing is kind of becoming the you need to have to operate a short-term rental property.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have access to how many people are trying to book? For example, when, where, and how long at the time a dynamic price is suggested?
So that's a tough one. No, we wouldn't have real-time information like that. We can look at some parameters like available inventory, what's been booked yesterday to compare to. So we are able to generate some reports, but not in real time.
Gotcha. So what metrics do you use when utilizing your price recommendations?
Well, there's a lot.
Yeah, broad question.
And like we have over 200 parameters in our engine. And the recommendation a lot of times is those parameters are used really to find out what other listings are available today that are exactly or as close as possible to your listing, so that we can get you an apples to apples comparison of all your competitors on any given day. And once we've got that list, then you can see what everybody else is charging for their nightly rates. And that will allow us to build a pricing recommendation for that night. And since that inventory changes daily, and the more properties you have, the more challenging it is to actually figure out what you should be charging. If you only have one property, you might be able to do some of that groundwork manually, but maybe for a few days in advance. But as you start to get into like weeks and months in advance, it starts to get really challenging to do this manually. And nobody's going to invest all that time just to get one extra night booked or an extra couple of nights booked, or maybe you have a gap night and you're trying to get that booked to maximize your revenue. And trying to play with the parameters, it's like trying to time the market. It's really challenging, and it becomes even more challenging as the software gets smarter.
Awesome. And then also earlier you said that you had that you offer different features. Can you clarify what features DPGO offers?
Okay, so specifically in the dashboard, we offer, like, once you've got your listings imported and our engine has an opportunity to run against all of the data, then we're able to show you a lot of different charts and graphs. So we can show you things like, what is the number of nights that people are booking in advance on average? The competitors tab will show you all of your competitors that you have, that we've compared you against. Our calendar tab will show you, all of the recommended nightly bookings or nightly rates for the bookings for weeks and months in advance. In terms of the settings themselves, we can set a base price, like one of the earlier questions Carolyn had asked about, if you've got a nicer place, more luxurious, so you can adjust your base pricing. We can also do the seasonality adjustments. We can show you forecasting for the next 52 weeks. So we can show you kind of a prediction of what your nightly rates are probably going to look like over the next 52 weeks. And a lot of those features too are really great for real estate investors. If you're looking to potentially add a property to your portfolio and you're wanting to see what you might earn on this property, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with like beachfront versus one street back, same city, same location, one street different, all of a sudden the rate changes significantly. So the ideal thing to do in that situation is to use the competitors tab to see, what are your competitors earning on that street versus one street over. And so one of the tips or tricks that I sometimes offer or suggest is to fictitiously change your listing address so that the comparison becomes, or a potential property that you're looking to purchase, it gets compared to all of the competitors in that area. So you can kind of, if you're trying to predict what what your ROI might be on a particular property, you could actually use our tool to help you determine that. So that's kind of some of the features that you can try to use and leverage our platform to do stuff like that. The daily updates, so our system gathers all the data, automatically pushes the pricing out to your property management platform. So some of the automation there, it saves you lots of time. The list of features, it seems like go on and on. So, and we're always adding, and anytime, every month or two, we're always adding new features. So you're always going to leverage the benefit of that growth in feature set.
Perfect. And now just, I guess, trends in dynamic pricing, like, are there any differences any differences in between channels? Like, should one of your users or property manager be pricing their listings higher on one channel versus the other? Do you have any examples or suggestions on that?
So we leverage the Airbnb data quite heavily. So that's kind of our gold standard. So when we come up with recommendations for pricing, it's going to be drawn off of that that data set because it is the largest. And so we found that usually pricing doesn't fluctuate a whole lot from one channel to the other, unless they're adding some additional fees or if there's a percentage increase on the different platform because of whatever the fee structure might be, so to balance off that kind of stuff. That's what usually calculated internally and then pushed out to that channel. So there really isn't a significant difference between one channel and the other. Like, you're not going to charge double on a different channel. The demand is usually similar. It's going to be pretty much across the board.
Perfect. And you kind of touched on this, but the kind of in regard to COVID, what's been the biggest adjustment for property managers that they had to make kind of within their pricing and their revenue strategy?
So,
and I guess it kind of depends on the market as well. But I know, being in Charlotte, North Carolina, a lot of the southern states, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, we've been booming with a lot of short-term rental, and we've seen a huge impact in our market. So just anything to highlight on that will be super helpful.
Sure. Definitely with the last 18 months, we've seen significant fluctuations in demand based on the local lockdowns and how people kind of looked at travel and kind of held themselves back. So with that rapid change and fluctuation, it's going to affect the demand. And just like the example that I was describing before, if you set your nightly rates at X per night, like if it's $100 and that demand is going up and down, today you're going to be at the top of the list, tomorrow you're going to be at the very bottom. And if you're not adjusting accordingly to those demand fluctuations, and this has been the most probably turbulent times we've seen, your number of bookings is going to change dramatically. You could potentially see, if the demand spikes and all of a sudden, you're at the top of the list because you're priced lower, then you're going to get booked a lot, but you're not going to be earning as much as you should be or could be. And then vice versa, if the demand drops, you're at the bottom of the list now, and you're not getting any bookings, and you haven't. So you miss like 2, 3, 4 nights before you realize that your booking price is too low or too high. Then you're missing out on a lot of revenue.
Yeah. And just to get, I guess, a little bit more granular, and this is more of a specific question, but I think a lot of the people on the call will really benefit from it. Coming from Kevin, do you feel that lumping your cleaning fee into your nightly rate has given negative impact? So potential guests are turned off by the posted higher rate, not knowing that there are no added cleaning fees. Post lower rate and then add in a cleaning fee to get the traffic and visibility on your postings. And I know during my demos, a lot of people ask that question. So I'd love to hear your feedback on that one.
So one of the charts in our performance dashboard, once your property's listings are imported, is we'll actually show you what the average cleaning rate is for your competitors. So that allows you to be competitive on the cleaning fee. That gives you an opportunity to remove it from your nightly rate, because if everybody else is charging an average of $40 a night per cleaning fee, if you're setting it to what the average is, chances are people won't consider it as a factor anymore, because they'll see that, oh, everybody's charging about this amount. So let me go see what else is it. Let me check the nightly rate. Let me check some other features. So that way you have the opportunity to maintain a lower nightly rate because it's not blended, and that gives you an opportunity to get booked a lot more. And that's one of the things that's really changing in this dynamic pricing system, is that as we're able to get more of those parameters into consideration, and we are able to develop those performance dashboard charts, you can look at all of those different parameters and say what the average is, instead of going out there and having to figure it out on your own what the average person's charging. We've done all the heavy lifting for you. We give you the data, we give you the charts, you see what the average cleaning fee is, you might see what other factors that might be affecting people's booking decisions, and then you can kind of make those decisions on your property so that you can be in line with everybody else, and then gives you the advantage to get more bookings.
Mark, we also had a question actually about your background. So I don't think we went over this in the beginning. Have you been in this industry for a while now?
Well, I come from a background of IT and software development, and some of my partners are also in the IT industry, and we are all sort of involved in the real estate, short-term rental industry. And we came up with this we didn't invent dynamic pricing, but we looked at how we could leverage our backgrounds to develop a platform that would help us increase our ROI on our properties. And so that gave birth to DPGO, and now here we are in a kind of a trending market. So it really spawned off from just our own personal experiences.
Yeah, I think both Frank and I have been at a couple of events recently, and that seems to be, the topic on everyone's mind right now is dynamic pricing and how they can really leverage that to make the most of their listings. We've got another question from Caroline that asks, how does the minimum night rental affect the rate?
The minimum night rental. Minimum night rental. So our system has a base pricing. So you can set your base pricing. We can recommend the base price, and then you can also add a minimum and a maximum. You wouldn't want to have a maximum, but you can set a maximum. So, for example, if the base pricing might be $100 per night, but then you can also add a minimum nightly rental rate, and usually you would want to have that slightly below the base pricing. So that gives the opportunity for the nightly rate to fluctuate based on demand.
Right.
I don't know if that helps, but the best thing to do is, again, plug in your listings and let the engine run and show you what it recommends. And then you can see, even without turning on the pricing, you can see what the engine would recommend. And then it kind of gives you in line like what you might want to set your nightly rates to. And that's probably the best way to do it. Like I can predict what the markets will demand tomorrow, but the engine does a really great job of forecasting that. So, sometimes we think our property's worth a certain amount per night, but that's not necessarily what the market thinks. And so let the engine run the data and see what kind of numbers it crunches.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also wanted to ask a question that comes up quite often during our demos, and I'm sure, Frank, this has happened to you as well, which is, how does dynamic pricing via a partner compare to dynamic pricing through one of the OTAs?
So one of the one that comes to mind is the smart pricing with Airbnb. That one was sort of notorious. We had a lot of people complaining that it sets their nightly rate too low, and so their objective is to give you more bookings, and so that's maybe not necessarily what you're looking for. What you're looking for is to maximize your ROI on your short-term rental property. So that's kind of the difference, and those pricing platforms are also geared towards the traveler as well, which is fair. They want to give the traveler the best deal possible and give you the most bookings possible. Well, we're seeing is a lot more people are actually real estate investors now managing short-term rental properties, and there's a break-even point, and those pricing systems don't necessarily work very well for those scenarios. And we're starting to see more and more large hosts or super hosts that are also managing properties for property owners, and they've got a margin that they've got to reach so that they can actually be profitable in their property management business. So using dynamic pricing kind of helps that audience a little bit better.
Yeah, that definitely helps to clear it up. Thank you.
Okay.
We had another question asking, actually along the same lines, can you explain the difference between getting more bookings versus maximizing ROI?
So the idea is to have more nights booked. And really, I guess the difference would be, for example, if your nightly rate is $100, do you hold out to get 105 and then you miss out a booking and lose and get zero? And so really it's okay to discount your nightly rate by a certain percentage and still get booked, because that, if it was $95, 95 is better than zero. And so that usually pushes your ROI much higher than compared to, you don't necessarily have that real-time negotiation with a traveler where they, unless you're talking on the phone and they're making you an offer of $95, that doesn't really happen in this industry. So the system allows that pricing to drop based on market demand automatically, so that you can get that extra booking and earn that $95 rather than zero, unless you're in a situation where you'd rather not earn anything or if you have a break-even point, but our system allows you to put those parameters in as well for minimum pricing and base pricing and stuff like that. So it's definitely, more bookings is going to lead to more ROI in most cases, unless the price drops dramatically. But in most cases, it doesn't drop by that much. To get a booking, it might just be like a 5% discount or 5% less, and that's always going to generate more ROI than trying to get a higher amount per night and then not be booked at all. I hope that helps.
Well, I think this is certainly a topic that we could stay on for a long time. I know
Sure.
we've gotten lots of interest, lots of great questions. Certainly I think we all appreciate your time, Marco, and your expertise today. And thank you, Frank, for your awesome job doing as my co-host. Thank you to all of our attendees. As mentioned, we will be sending out the recorded version via email this week. And certainly, if you want to reach out to any of us, we'll provide some contact details for both DPGO and for Hostfully. So thank you again, everyone, for joining today, and hopefully we see you again at a future webinar.